Cool. Hi, hello everyone. How we doing?
Good.
Geez, did nobody read the challenge last week? Y'all are killing me.
Outstanding.
Do you
I'm
know?
exhausted.
That's better. Wait, that's your normal response.
I am living the dream. What about you?
You're living the dream, are you now?
Dream.
Okay.
You ever seen Nightmare on Elm Street?
I have.
Yeah.
I've lived it too. Metaphorically speaking, yes? Right. So the challenge last week, who could tell me what it was?
To answer differently.
Answer differently to what?
That question she was asking.
Why? To what end? For what purpose?
Just because we always just give a standard greeting or a standard answer to that greeting.
So?
Create dialogue.
There you go.
Yeah.
Engage.
Yeah. But why? What's the whole purpose of it? I'm good, how you doing? Why is that such a big deal? Anybody, come on.
Lift up their spirit.
Lift up their spirit, make them feel better.
I mean,
By you giving a different answer about how you're feeling?
Yeah, you say, how you doing? I'm doing good. And you say, how you doing? You're doing good. You care.
Okay. So the fact that I'm just talking to you, that means I care, right? So, I'm going to ask you all to review this again, okay? Or the challenge for last week, all right? The challenge for last week was the purpose of you enacting critical thinking in a conversation. And I took the simplest form of it. You know, the most common question that you get asked, how you doing, right? And I asked you to critically think during that moment in order to give yourself a different response. Instead of just a knee-jerk response, to train yourself to respond in the moment and to respond exactly to that question to the best of your ability. The more often that you're able to critically think during a conversation, the easier it's going to become and the easier it's going to come to you. And the better listener that you're going to be, the better speaker that you're going to be, the more clear that you're going to come across to those that you're speaking with. And being able to deliver your message clearly is key to you moving up. Key to getting to those things and to those goals that you're wanting to get to. So when we put these challenges out, look at them, read them, and do them. That last part is key. You know, you can look at them, read them all day long, like it, but if you don't do it, there's no point to it. Speaking of liking, if you do see it in Teams, go ahead and like it for me. Let me know, hey, yes, I've seen it, I've acknowledged it, and yeah, I got it, okay? That way I know that people are actually seeing it, and for those who don't, I can go up to them and say, hey, have you checked Teams lately? Oh, no, I haven't. Oh, you might want to get on there, right? Just to help you out, help me out. Cool? Second thing, so 22 over 28. I'm not a big fractions person, and I'm pretty sure that can be reduced, but we're not going to reduce it, okay? Because I can't stand fractions. But 22 over 28, that's how many have completed that second assessment. That means there's 6 of y'all between this class and the next one who simply do not care. Or who simply do not think that or think that they can progress without doing the work. Who simply think that it's just going to happen to them. The opportunity is going to knock on their door, and all they have to do is open it, and there's going to be a wash in it. Right? That's not how it works. I told you since day one, from the very beginning, that if you want the change to occur, you have to go out and do what you think itself. We give you these activities to do to allow you the opportunity, right? To to do the work with it. That's just a small part. It's something to get you going, to get your mind thinking in that direction. That's all that is, but it helps. You completing that tells me, hey, this matters to me, my growth matters to me, my development matters to me. And if it matters to you, it matters that much more to me and to the rest of the mentors. Because that tells us that you're willing to put the work and the dedication into it, and that our efforts are not going to waste. So for those 6 who did not complete this assessment, their mentors will not meet with them this next month. Why am I going to ask my mentors to meet with you and to work with you when you are not willing to put the work in yourself? There's going to be another deal this next month. Complete that, and then your mentor will come back and work with you because you will have shown that you're willing to put the work into it. Okay? So, I've spoken enough. You've heard me for the last 2 months in a row. Okay? I'm starting to get hoarse. It's no good for me. All right, it's time for y'all to hear from somebody else. One of our other mentors. He's a pretty outstanding guy. He started off on S1 here in the building, and he has since moved over to S4. And he's the AM over there at the Picmont. And I'm telling you, this guy has a very deep knowledge of this particular environment that we're about to go into. He's and one of the reasons why I chose him specifically for this topic. Okay, so open your ears, open your hearts, and open your hands and put them together for Mr. Charles Wood.
Please. That one felt sarcastic. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Moulder said, my name is Charles Wood. I am an S1 expatriate, currently serving my time on S4. For those of you that may be on S2 and never have met me, I promise I work here. We just don't intersect at all. It's really good to be here, to be with you guys. I appreciate y'all taking the time to listen to me. Hopefully there will be some value added out of what I have to say, and I hope to get to hear from you guys so we can learn from each other. Have any of you ever heard it said that to be a good leader, make sure you're not the smartest person in the room? So what they mean by that is to surround yourself with people who are maybe smarter than you, who can show you a different perspective on things, so that when you come with an idea, they can poke holes in it, and then together you can come up with something that's more solid. I would say that there's one place where that doesn't apply, and that is emotional intelligence. So today we'll try to talk a little bit about what it is, why it's important, and why we as leaders and future leaders need it. The reason that I think that being the most emotionally intelligent person is important is because that allows you the ability to get the most out of those people that are classically smarter than you. Those who are better problem solvers, you can help them work better. You can help them cohese as a unit so that everyone's got the same focus and the same goal in mind. And together, you can kind of be that little bit of intuition that forces them to go more than they think they're capable of, or more than they necessarily want to do to get to that next level. Does anyone have an idea of what emotional intelligence is? If we had to define it, how would you define it? Not all at once, but one at a time in a single file line.
I guess how well do you know emotions? Or
How well you perform under pressure?
Okay, how well do you perform under pressure? How well you know emotions? Anything else? Resilience. That's a good answer. So, emotional intelligence is a hard thing to define. We all know what emotions are. We all know people who handle them well and handle them poorly, but how does that all get umbrellaed underneath emotional intelligence? If y'all have read either of the books that Moulder recommended, you'll learn that even the author has a difficult time giving a really cohesive definition. It's kind of long how you're gonna define it. So here's how they define it, and it makes sense to me. So at its core, it's the ability to recognize your own emotions and recognize the emotions of other people. It's the ability to regulate or manage your own emotions. It's the ability to distinguish accurately and consistently between different emotions so that you're not getting confused about what it is that you're feeling or someone else is feeling or mistaking it for something else. And it's the ability to use emotional understanding to guide your choices. Because we all know people that act strictly out of emotion. Sometimes that's really good. If you're at, a UGA game and they're about to win the national championship, act out of emotion. That is a great time to do it. But when you're here at work and someone disagrees with you, and maybe you feel like saying not the nicest thing in the world to them, that may not be the time to do it. And just a side note, the ability to distinguish accurately and consistently between different emotions. You ever been hangry?
Once or twice.
Yeah, you're not mad, you're just hungry. Just go eat a Snickers, you'll be all right. So to kind of phrase that in a different wording, there are 4 pillars of emotional intelligence that allow us to do all of those things, those abilities that we just talked about. So you have self-awareness, the ability to know what you are feeling, self-regulation or self-management, the ability to control what you're feeling and let that help guide your actions, social awareness, being aware of other people, what they're feeling, what they're dealing with, and then relationship management, being able to interact with people in a beneficial way, in a way that builds them up, and despite what emotions you may feel, being able to come to a good conclusion out of whatever the conflict is. Now, we're going to focus today specifically on self-awareness and self-regulation. Social awareness and relationship management will be for another time. The reason for that is because without those first 2, if you can't look inward and see what's going on and understand what's going on, you're going to be kind of hopeless when it comes to looking outward and trying to figure that out. So let's look at self-awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation stone or the cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Reason for that, if you don't understand what's going on here in yourself, then how do you ever expect to understand what's going on with someone else? I'll give you a good example of this. As a kid, I had a terrible temper. I'm talking about fly off the handle, choke somebody out because they looked at me wrong. I have a cousin who's 6'7", I'm 5'5". I got a lot of short jokes, like a lot. And as soon as he opened his mouth, I would jump up and literally start choking. Like, I had to jump because I was short, but I would take the leap to choke him out because that's how bad my temper was. When I was 13, I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me, so he was 11, and we would fight from time to time, as brothers do. But I'm also closer to him than probably anyone else in the world, especially at that time. Just because of the age gap, we did everything together. And around 13 is when I realized that if we fought, I could hurt him because I had reached a point where I was stronger. I was developing faster than he was at that age. And we got into an argument because, do you guys remember the hoppy balls or the kangaroo balls, the little thing you has a little handle when you bounce around? We only had one of those. And he was playing with it, and I wanted to play with it. Or it's not even that I wanted to play with it, I wanted to aggravate him. And he wouldn't give it to me, so I waited until he was airborne and everything was off the ground. And then with a really good timed kick, I took it out from underneath him. And he fell, hurt his back. Obviously he's mad, so he comes at me. And I'm in the wrong, but I'm like, oh no, temper starts rising. I'm gonna fight back. And we got to the point where I realized that I could physically hurt him badly if we fought. And inside of myself, I'm thinking, hey, I gotta do something about this temper thing. I can't just let that happen because I'm mad. I've got to learn to control that a little bit. So I didn't know what it was called at that time, but that was my first interaction with self-awareness. Being aware of how I'm feeling and how it influences myself and how it influences my relationships. It's the ability to recognize your own emotional state. And being in touch with your own feelings is necessary in order to recognize the feelings of others. If you can't feel your own emotions in a healthy way, if you can't process them, then someone else is going to be a blank page to you. You're not going to be able to read their cues, what they say verbally, maybe it's non-verbally. You're not going to pick up on that, and it's going to cause you to fall behind in your relationships and in interactions with others, whether that be here at work, at home, wherever you find yourself. Now, another thing about self-awareness is it's necessary in order to feel sympathy or to have empathy towards someone else. Because if you don't know that you're sad, you don't realize that sadness, how are you going to express, or how are you going to feel someone else's sadness when they express it? You're not really going to be able to and you're gonna come off kind of cold, aloof, not caring, and it's all because you're kind of denying yourself that experience, so you're not gonna experience someone else's. So there is a downside to self-awareness. It can be deceptive. If we only have self-awareness, it can lead to act only based on your emotional state. Let's take the example I gave of having a really bad temper growing up, and I still do, but I can control it better now. If I knew that I got mad, but I didn't do anything about it, then okay, cool, I'm mad, I understand that, I'm gonna go punch this guy now. That's not helping me any. It's gonna be detrimental to all of my relationships, and no one's gonna wanna talk with me or have an opinion that differs from mine, or if they do have an opinion, they're not gonna share it, because what's the point in getting into an argument? This guy flies off of the handle at the drop of a hat, so I'm just gonna not even worry about him. And if you only become aware of your own emotions and that's what you act out of, then that's gonna lead to selfishness, possibly even narcissism. You're only gonna care about yourself. You understand how you feel, but it doesn't really benefit you at all. This is maybe the most extreme case of that, but to give you an idea, we're gonna look at a character in film who I would argue is the most self-aware person of all time, but it's not anyone that I would want to emulate. So you have to combine that self-awareness with other aspects of emotional intelligence in order for it to be a benefit to you. So, anybody want to take a guess on who that person is before we go to the next slide? It's not you, you already know. It's from a film. It's an older film. Any guesses at all? No? All right, well, I'll just show you. Patrick Bateman. Does everybody know who Patrick Bateman is? Does everybody know American Psycho? So, Patrick Bateman, super aware of how he felt. But unfortunately, how he felt was like killing people a lot of the time. So, not beneficial. Same can be said for us. Maybe we know how we feel, but if we're not doing anything about it in a way that's going to benefit us, maybe it doesn't lead to us becoming a serial killer, but maybe it leads to us not moving forward in a role that we think we deserve. Maybe it means that we don't interact with our team, or we're not able to get as much out of our team as we would like, because while we're aware of how we act and how we feel, we're not doing anything to make sure that it's influencing other people in a positive way. Does anyone have an example for themselves of something they're aware of that maybe they need to work on, to improve on? I'll give another example. It's not necessarily emotionally related, but I'm sure Moulder will attest that I procrastinate. If you look at our correspondences as I was preparing this, it didn't quite match the timeline that we initially set out. Now, there were extenuating circumstances, and because it was two emotionally intelligent people interacting with each other, we came to a good conclusion and were able to help each other out to get to this point. But it is also something that I know I've got to work on outside of having any other factors. Whatever I need to decide to do, I have to make sure that I devote the time to it. What about you, Ms. Goodman? Anything like that for yourself?
No, yeah, the end of shift I haven't started yet. Absolutely.
What about from an emotional perspective? Are any of you aware of an emotion or a circumstance that you feel but you don't necessarily deal with it in the best way, specifically with work?
Frustration.
Frustration? What do you mean?
So, I let it kind of drown me, basically, and it basically fails me before I even begin. So I get frustrated with a task or frustrated with the resources that are lacking, and I let that be the only thing I see at the time, and not the positives. Oh, hey, I got labor share today for exceptions. Oh, hey, they're giving me extra drivers so we can get this done. But that first 30 minutes where I could be starting the task already, I'm literally standing there and stalling because I'm so frustrated, and it basically shuts me down until I realize it and I'm able to kind of pull myself out of the situation.
Yeah. Well, good news is you are not alone in feeling frustration. There's not a single person in this room that in this building has not felt frustrated at some point, whether that be about a coworker, someone that's on your team, the process that you're having to deal with, the freight that you're dealing with, the technology or lack thereof that you're dealing with. But it is good that you realize it and you're able to pull yourself out of it. That is an example of self-regulation, which can't happen if you don't have self-awareness. If you don't realize what that frustration is stemming from, and then figure out a healthy way to deal with it. Yes, sir.
I have a question for Ms. Duff.
Sure.
Okay.
Hi. So when it initially occurs, when the frustration begins to build, do you recognize it at that point, or is it
No.
only at a later point that you begin to
Later point.
recognize it? All right, so I would challenge you to try working backwards, and try recognizing that at a sooner point and seeing where those triggers really are. Because a lot of times you can begin to feel, you know, the tension rising, the anxiety, your body's starting to tighten up, your mind's starting to go from, okay, I've got this, oh, no, wait, I've got this, no, I got this over here. And you're flipping page to page, you forgot what you were completely working on. These type of indicators are beginnings of that right there, what you were talking about, that frustration building. So the sooner that you can try to analyze that and work backwards, the sooner that you can stop it from, you know, taking over and that frustration really overwhelming. So yeah, I would just challenge you to look at those indicators and try to recognize them a little sooner.
So he actually leads to a good point. Part of self-awareness, I think, is changing your perspective of yourself. So let's do a quick exercise. Take 15 seconds. You don't have to write them down, but make a number of every blue thing that you see in this room. Start now. All right. William, how many did you see? 10? All right. How many did you see, Tim? 11. Oh, got you beat. Jennifer, how many did you see? 8. All right, so 10, 11, 8, everybody saw something blue, right? How many brown things did y'all see? None? It's because you weren't looking for brown.
Or you see it now.
Yeah, you see it. You see it now, but we weren't looking for brown. The room hasn't changed. There's the same amount of brown things in it. There's the same amount of blue things in it, but our perspective wasn't the same. We were looking for blue things. We weren't looking for brown. We can do that with our own emotions. And the best way, I think, to do this is to get outside of yourself. Whether that be talk therapy, whether that be someone that you know you can trust and use as an advocate. I'll give a good example, and hopefully she won't mind since she's in the room, but I didn't realize, sorry, I didn't realize how selfish I was until I got married. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean it in a bad way, and I don't mean anything that my wife said to me or showed me, but for the first time, my perspective has changed. Because up to that point, it's me, me, me. It's what can I do? What do I need? What do I want? What do I want to eat? How do I feel? But then I got married and I'm part of something other than just myself. And I have to start taking into account how another person feels. And the same can be said when you become a parent. I don't know yet, but I've heard from parents and I know that's how they feel. You start worrying about someone else's perception of you. And when you're struggling on how to be self-aware, start thinking about how other people see you. Look outside of yourself and see what they're gonna see when they look at you. If you can do that, if you can kind of put that into an exercise, it's going to help you to see those areas where maybe you have a blind spot, something that you may need to work on or something that you can strengthen. So that's what I would challenge you guys to do. How we do that is through self-regulation. Quick question before we move on, because if anyone answers yes, maybe you need a different class. Does anyone want to be Patrick Bateman? No? All right, so different class for you after this. All right,
I
good
know a
deal.
guy, don't worry, he's gonna help you.
He'll have a really comfy jacket you can wear. So how we don't become Patrick Bateman is through self-regulation. So what can I do about my emotions? I think that self-regulation is kind of the next logical step for self-awareness. You understand how you feel, you understand, you process it. Now it's time to make that work for your benefit, for the benefit of others. A good way to kind of practice this is just because I feel blank doesn't mean I fill in the blank. So anyone have an idea of what that means or how you can use that? What do you think, Paul?
Self-regulation. No, I'm trying to write.
Oh, sorry.
Can you
I don't
repeat
have
the question?
computers here.
So the second part, just because I feel blank doesn't mean I blank. Use an example of that, or what do you think that means so that you feel an emotion and then you regulate it?
Just because I feel down doesn't mean I have to show it.
Exactly. I came in early one day last weekend to work with some of my S5 mentees. And so instead of waking up at 3 like I normally do, I'm up at 1 a.m. so that I can come spend 2 hours with them. Not their fault that they work on S5 and I work on S4. It's not their fault that I had to wake up early. That's just part of what I agreed to do. So I'm driving in and it's about a 35-40 minute drive, and in my head I'm grumbling. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be awake. Why did I decide to do this? Why did I agree to this? This is stupid. There were other things, but those are the ones I'm going to share. As I'm walking through the door though, take a breath, put on my face that I'm happy to be here, that I'm all about being here for this moment to help you and figure out what it is that you need from me. Because that's the reality of the situation. I signed up for it. I want to help the people that want to be helped and try to help develop them into leaders. And this is part of the sacrifice that I'm making to go along with the part of the sacrifice they're making of putting in the extra time to do it. Just because I'm tired and I'm cranky doesn't mean that, Michelle, if I'm talking to you, that you deserve for me to act tired and cranky. You didn't do anything to me. And it's not necessarily even about being there. It's about something that, if I didn't want to be tired and cranky, I should have gone to bed earlier. It's not your fault, and it's not my job to take it out on you because of something that I didn't plan for better. Same thing, William, if I'm having a problem with Chris, and you just look like someone that would, you look like someone that would cause problems, man. If I'm having a problem with him, and then, I'm frustrated and I'm flustered and I'm red in the face, and then I come to talk to you, William, why are there so many labels still out here? Why aren't these in the shelf yet? It's not your fault that I'm mad, and I don't, if I have questions about that, I need to come and speak to you in a respectful way. I need to learn to compartmentalize that conversation I just had with Chris that you don't have any control over.
Take your woo side of it.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I have the yin and yang on the backside, because when we're regulating our emotions, a lot of the time it is like yin and yang, or ebb and flow. Let's say that you're in a business situation where you need to act logically, you need to have a measured, reasoned response, but the person that you're talking to is being combative. Maybe they're making your blood pressure rise a little bit, you're feeling some type of way. You've got to learn to separate those. So let the yin be your reasoning capabilities, what needs to happen for the business, and a measured response. Let the yang be those emotions that you're feeling, whether it's anger, frustration, tiredness, whatever it is. Separate them, focus on the yin, get the best for the business and the best for the business relationship with the person you're dealing with, and then let the yang be its own thing. Now that doesn't mean to forget about yang. You've got yin, later you've got to deal with yang, because if you don't, that's going to lead to possibly holding grudges against that person, souring the relationship in the long term, and then maybe even something that you're not conscious is happening, but can happen because you're harboring these feelings that you never dealt with. Just because I'm able to put away the fact that I'm tired and cranky or whatever and deal with the person doesn't mean that maybe I need to get some coffee later. Take care of both things separately. Same goes for whatever it is that you're feeling towards someone. You don't have to tell them that you feel that way, but maybe you do need to talk through it. Maybe you need to journal it. Whatever the case is that helps you let go of what you're holding so that you can be productive and restore that relationship instead of hurting it in the long run. What else did I put? Sorry. Oh, know your strengths and then know your weaknesses and make them your strength. How do we do that? Anybody? Who, Nelson or Rebecca? Or Jose? What do you think, Jose? How do you realize your weakness and then make them your strength?
Working to make them better, get better at it from them.
Okay, give me an example.
If you know you get mad easily, and you realize it, by working to make it better and not get mad all the time, you're learning how to control your emotions, how to control yourself.
You know what? That's actually not a bad answer. A thing that my mom used to say is that if you ask the Lord for patience, He's not going to give you patience. He's going to give you an opportunity to be patient. Exactly. Same goes here at work. If you know that you get frustrated with a certain task, try to ask for help on that task, or ask for expertise for someone else that's done that task and maybe does it in a more efficient way, or has some tricks that you don't know that will allow it to be not quite so frustrating. If there's someone that just gets on your nerves and you can't stand them and you don't want to talk to them, and every time you see them, images of Patrick Bateman maybe come to mind, go out of your way to try to create a relationship there. Ask how they're doing and care about how they're doing. If you see them struggling with their workload, offer to help. Because as you do that, you're going to see a change in them that's going to create a change in you. So that leads into empathy. Can anyone tell me the difference between empathy and sympathy? Without reading. What do you think, Brent? In your words, what's the difference?
Empathy and sympathy?
Mm-hmm.
Empathy is when you empathize with someone in their situation.
So what does it mean to empathize with someone?
Kind of see it from their perspective, I guess. Put yourself in their situation.
So you just did a great job of describing sympathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Good job. So, it's the difference in understanding someone's emotions and feeling or living that emotion. To give you a good example, I am a dog person. I have two, Sully and Murphy. If you've ever seen my computer, you've probably seen them. If you've talked to me for more than 5 minutes, you've probably heard about them. Those are my kids. I love them dearly. I don't own a piece of clothing that doesn't have dog hair on it. My bed is their bed. My couch is their couch. My fries are their fries. Love those dudes. Now, if you saw me, if you're not a dog person or an animal person in general, and you saw me and I'm kind of down and I seem kind of out, and you're like, hey, what's wrong? Sully's sick. We had to take him to the vet. He's not eating. He's been throwing up. I'm just really worried. I'm stressed. I'm a little sad about it. You not really caring about animals, you're gonna say, it's just a dog. But to me, that's my baby.
That's a
So,
family member.
I'm sorry?
That's a family member.
Exactly, that's a family member. So, you not being a dog person, you might understand where I'm coming from, but you're not gonna get it. It's like, all right, well, you know, I'm sorry, man. I hope they get better. But if you are a dog person, you can feel that. You can experience it for yourself because you've been there. You can put yourself in my situation because you have that same connection to your dog that I have to my dog. So you may not necessarily feel it with sympathy, but you understand it and you can show tolerance because of understanding what that feels like. One thing to point out, being sympathetic doesn't necessarily mean to pity someone. A lot of times sympathy has this negative connotation that goes along with it. It seems kind of condescending, or it can. From an emotionally intelligent perspective, it's a good thing to be sympathetic towards someone. We aren't always going to be able to generate empathy, but we can create tolerance in how someone is feeling because we're able to understand it from an emotional perspective. It allows you to put yourself in that struggle even if you can't feel it. So empathy goes beyond that. It's not all encompassing of what emotional intelligence is, but it is a very good indicator that someone is emotionally intelligent. I would say that it's the most important trait of EQ, or emotional quotient. It allows you to go beyond just simple understanding and to experience what they're going through, to feel it as if it were happening to yourself. Why do you think it's important to feel something the way that someone else is feeling it? What do you think, Ashley?
It just helps you build that rapport with them, and it helps you be more personable.
That's very true. It creates compassion and it creates tolerance. So if you have someone, let's say, that you're in charge of who has been late maybe 3 times this week. Hey, what's going on? Why are you late? You know we're supposed to be here at 5:30. You're getting here at 5:35, 5:40. What's up with that? And they begin to explain to you they're having trouble at home, something's not right with their family, maybe one of their kids is sick. If you have empathy, you're going to understand that, and your response to them is going to be different. Now, the expectation doesn't change, but the way that we deliver the fact that, hey, I get that, I'm sorry that you're going through that, I'm here to help however I can, but please try to be here on time so that we can deal with that without you having to deal with more stress from being late, possibly getting an occurrence, something like that. Versus, well, that sucks, but I need you here at 5:30. Which one of those are you going to be more likely to respond well to? Exactly. So that's where empathy comes into play. It allows us to care about that struggle, to imagine it for ourselves, and then experience it firsthand. Yes, sir.
Why should we care how they respond?
Why should we care?
Yeah, why should we care how the associate responds?
How they respond to what we say to them?
Yeah.
Because that is how you are going to create a cohesive team that works in harmony with each other.
I just need them to work, though. I just need them to do the work.
Do you?
I mean,
How long do you
get
think-
paid, you're here to do a job, just stay
But
here
you
on
don't-
time, do your job.
But you're only as good as your team. Without
Yeah.
your team, you can't get your work done.
But I'm paying you to do the work. It's not enough.
But I can go somewhere else and get paid somebody who.
And I'll bring
appreciates what
somebody
I
else
do.
in here.
And they gonna walk out again too?
There's 7 million people on the planet. I'll find somebody, right?
So we'll get to it in a bit in a further slide, but it's the difference between a business surviving and a business thriving. I don't know about y'all, but I would rather thrive than just survive. Not gonna name any names, but there are other businesses I can think of. So, IQ versus EQ. IQ stands for intelligence quotient. EQ, emotional quotient, is the equal opposite of it. I think that this cartoon does a really good job of kind of describing the difference between the two. The brain is your IQ. Sometimes I think people are just getting worse. Sees a problem, is trying to problem solve for someone else, not necessarily for themselves. Emotional quotient is gonna see what you can do to fix it. So maybe you have to be your own cheerleader and everyone else's cheerleader sometimes. So what are those differences? IQ alone is no longer enough to indicate if someone's gonna have leadership potential. This is for the smarty pants in the group that think that just because you're the smartest that you're gonna do the best. That's not always the case. Let's say that Andrew has a problem. He has solved the problem and he knows how to fix it, but his team doesn't like him. So when he goes to tell them how to fix the problem, they're not gonna listen to him. And why is that? Because he's only worried about the problem that exists and fixing the problem. He's looking at people as computers or as machines instead of as people. So IQ no longer encompasses what it means to be necessarily intelligent, especially from a business perspective, because problem solving and computation is only half of the equation now. A good way to look at this is artificial intelligence. When scientists first created AI, or artificial intelligence, it was just for problem solving. They gave it computations, they gave it riddles, they gave it puzzles, and its job was to figure out how to do it in the most efficient way. And they considered that artificial intelligence. But now, as things advance, we start to look for an emotional component in our computers, in artificial intelligence. If you've ever heard of a chatbot, like if you've dealt with any type of customer return and you get the little assistant that's automated, they have a feeling of emotion to them. You say, this package never arrived. They may say, I'm so sorry to hear that. What can we do to help? It's still, ones and zeros, it's still code, but it's starting to feel more like a person, because to be intelligent, emotions have to exist, because humans are emotional creatures. Think of it like the Turing test. Does everyone know who Alan Turing is? Yes, no? Did you watch The Imitation Game? Okay, so The Imitation Game, great movie, check it out as soon as you get a chance, is about the scientist Alan Turing, who is trying to solve a code, and he creates a machine to do it. But more importantly, he is the father of artificial intelligence. And so we now have something called the Turing test, which is used to determine whether artificial intelligence is intelligent. And basically it's a list of questions that is asked to the system, and the way that they pass the Turing test is if a human can't tell the difference between that machine or that computer giving the answers, or if it's a human giving the answers. So it's trying to make it as realistic as possible in its responses. The same goes for us with EQ. Are we able to pass the Turing test when it comes to our emotions? With your peers, do they think of you as someone who's just worried about getting the work done, making sure that everything's finished, if there's a problem, solving it, and then telling people to do it? Or do they see you as a person who cares about yourself, cares about them, and wants to help foster that relationship? So, why do you need emotional intelligence as a leader? And this is getting back to what we were talking about with Moulder, between thriving and surviving. These stats are a little hard to look at because it reflects on me as a leader, anyone else who's in a leadership position. Now the caveat is that it's not specific to Walmart. It's a much broader test that was done, but still, you'll see what I mean. So a study showed that employees are more sensitive to managers who treat them uncaringly or ignore their concerns. Why do you think that is? this gets back to what Moulder was saying, is I don't need them to be happy, I need them to work. Well, not necessarily. Think about this, you go to a restaurant and it's a new spot, you wanna check it out, food's great, service is great, price is reasonable, really good experience. Sarah, how many people are you gonna tell about that?
Everybody, I know.
Everybody? No, realistically, if you had just, you know, a really good meal, how many people are you gonna tell?
A really good meal.
Yeah.
And the people treated you good, like the service was
Yeah,
good?
service was good.
All my family and friends.
Okay, so your family and friends. Now, let's reverse it. You went, had to wait an hour and a half to get in. Waiters did not care. You got your drink refilled once. Food was cold when it got there. It was somehow over-seasoned and under-seasoned at the same time. And the bill was astronomically high. How many people are you gonna tell about that?
Well, I'm telling everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
All my family and friends, and all the bad reviews.
Yeah, anytime someone's, even if you heard someone else say, oh, I'm going somewhere to eat.
Yeah, stranger, yeah.
Yeah, no, don't go to this place. Same goes for us as leaders. When people enjoy working in your department and they feel valued, yeah, they're gonna tell some people. But mostly they just accept it as what it's supposed to be. But if you treat them like dirt and they don't feel valued, they don't feel important, you're just a number to them and that's it. Everybody's gonna know before the end of the day what it was like working for that leader. I can guarantee you. That's the reality of it. Here's the part of it that really kind of sinks in what we as leaders have to do. That same study showed that half of all managers of the surveys that they did are rated poorly by their associates. So what that means is that even when you think you're doing things right, there's a 50% chance that maybe you're not. And the main reason cited was because of emotional insensitivity. They didn't care how their associates felt. And when you don't care, it's hard to hide that. So how that relates to business, thriving versus surviving. Paula, have you ever worked somewhere where you felt like you were just surviving?
Yeah. Amazon.
Whoa. But I didn't hear that. But the whole thing is there are places where we feel like we're just a cog in a wheel. We're helping to move a bigger machine. The way that we as leaders want to make people feel as important, as an integral part of making things run smoothly. Maybe someone on your team doesn't have a huge role, or maybe they just do one aspect of a much bigger thing. But if they know that you care about the way that they do that, they're going to care about the way that they do it as well. And so your department can thrive, that associate can thrive, and your team as a whole can thrive. Unless you work at the DMV. Because people say people don't leave jobs, they leave people, right? But if you're at the DMV, you just don't leave. That's all I've got. Are there any questions, things that you would like me to expand on? Or if you'd like for me to just sit down and shut up, that's fine too. All right, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it very much.
Outstanding, sir, outstanding. So he mentioned a lot of good things there. One thing that I want to touch back on is that particular positive deal that you were talking about just being positive, coming in, and regardless of what's going on outside of this, regardless of the troubles that you got, the girl that's yelling at you, or the kids that are driving you crazy, or bills to do anything like that, and coming in that door right there and leaving that at the door and managing to come in and do what you do, right? Putting a smile on your face and going about your work. Is that really what it's about, what it really means to be positive? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes?
Being positive.
Being positive. okay? Do you still feel all that? Is it still weighing on you? Yes or no? Yeah, absolutely.
Inside, deep down, it can still weigh on you, because when you come to work, it is that method. When you come in, whatever you got outside of work, you leave it outside, because if you bring it in, it's gonna make it rough for you inside. But if it's still down deep and there's something inside work triggers that, so you have to, like the yin and the yang, you have to balance them both. Make sure before you bring it into work, you straighten it out to the point that it won't hinder yourself at work. But when you get off work, whatever it is, it's at home or what, you work with it at home and you try to fix it so you can balance both aspects of your life. Because it's not just work and it's not just home life, it's both you have to balance. Especially as being a manager. I mean, you have to have the, not, I mean, emotion, but it's hard for y'all, I know, to care for each individual person, because like in the email you sent, like Joseph cares for, I think it's like 20 people, then to hire you up is 10 people, but you try to open yourself up to care for as many as you can, but the higher you're up, the more responsibility you have. But one thing I like what y'all came up with was the pins, that integrity, the respect, the excellence, to show the appreciation to the people. Most companies don't do that.
Yeah.
They just like I said, you come here, you're just here to work. You're another body, you're a number for me to get the numbers that I want. Most companies want just the numbers. Here at Walmart, they care about people and they want to see the people grow within. If there is issue, the managers, they'll see it and they'll talk to the people, pull them to the side, say, how you doing, what's going on? And it's hard for other people to talk about their emotions sometimes.
I didn't pay him to say that, by the way. But I will now.
I can add one thing to what he said.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm really glad that you brought up the core values of Walmart, because practicing the core values is a great way to increase your depth with emotional intelligence. One that sticks out to me specifically as a leader is service to the customer. Because yes, we have Joe and Jill at home who are buying things, and that's our customer. But who do you think my customer is as a manager? It's you guys. It's you guys, exactly. My associates are my customers that I deal with every day, and if I'm providing service to that customer, if I'm acting with integrity, if I'm striving for excellence in the way that I interact with them, then I'm going to become more emotionally intelligent and aware of what they're dealing with and how I can better serve them.
Exactly right. And you touched on quite a few different things there. Thank you for hitting that one point right there for me, with our core values.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I just want to elaborate. We see each other at work sometimes more than we see our family during the day. So you have to come with a positive vibe when you come to work, because if something is bothering you before you come to the door, no, we don't want sweet if we don't have no work. Yeah, all that stuff bothers, but work can bring me in sort of like a happy place, because you got your group of people who you gonna go to lunch with or whatever. So if something really bothers you at work, it's like a work family. It really mellows you out. You know what I mean? But that's really like key, because 40 hours a week, you know what I mean? By the time you get home, your kids doing their homework, they're gonna be getting ready for bed in about 3 hours. So I just seen you all more during the day than I just seen my family. So it's just, work just need to be a positive place.
And Michael said something there. He said happiness. How often is positivity equated to happiness? Be positive, be happy. They're about the same thing. They're synonymous in a lot of people's minds. But I want to challenge you to change your perspective on that just a little bit, okay? because you can be positive and still not necessarily be happy or feel happy. Okay, happiness comes and goes. It is a floating thing, and it's it's ups and downs and ins and outs and everything else, and it's very difficult to necessarily control. I can't force myself to be happy. I can put a smile on my face. I can seem happy. I can appear that I'm in a good mood and everything's good and everything's golden and there's no problems whatsoever, and there's rainbows and sunshine. I can make it seem like that all day long. That's not necessarily what I'm feeling, right? If I'm feeling like the world is crashing against me outside of here, and I can't necessarily resolve it before I come in, and the more time that I put against it outside of this puts that much more tension on me, that much more stress, that much more anxiety. I still have to find a way to manage to be able to come inside this building and make sure that I can come to y'all and talk to you and speak to you and still find a way to motivate you and still find a way to say, hey, you know what, you're having a rough day, it's okay, no worries, I get it. Okay, if you want to talk to me, that's fine. I'll listen, and we'll get through this day together. I still find a way to uplift y'all. As leaders, that's what you have to do. That's what it means to be positive. Even though you're feeling all that out there, you're still going to feel it. Just don't put it against the people that are coming in here, right? That's one of the ways that you can help to improve yourself, to build up, to kind of steal your own positivity, is being able to come in here and say, hey, these people are dependent on me, regardless of what color vest that I'm wearing, regardless of what level that I am. These people around me are dependent upon me to help them through the day. Because you're right, we are a team. We are more of a family, okay? And they're dependent upon me. Regardless of whether I'm wearing an orange vest or green or yellow, whatever, doesn't matter. They're still dependent upon me. Because I can bring them up or I can bring them down. Quick, fast, and in a hurry, right? I could change the tone in this room like that, depending upon my tone and how I'm reacting to, depending on how I'm coming at you. We all can. We all have that ability. We all have that power. So that's why it's so important to come in with that positive, professional mindset, right? Be professional, be positive. Happiness may not always be there, but that professionalism can be. That positivity can be. And I would challenge you to not necessarily chase happiness for things, but chase purpose. You can always be purposeful. Because even when you're being hit, even when you're on the ground and life is knocking you upside the head left and right, and you're feeling like the entire world is against you, as long as you're purposeful, you can still feel like, hey, I'm in a good spot. I'm where I'm supposed to be. As difficult as it is, as much as it sucks right now, because I am purposeful. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm wanting to do. I know that I'm growing. This event right here stinks. It doesn't matter. I'm still growing. But if all I'm seeking is happiness, and I get into that kind of event, and I'm getting beaten down, I'm like, well, I'm not happy right now. And it sucks. And I'm just stuck in this being unhappy, this whole zone right here, putting myself in this box, because I'm just unhappy, and I'm chasing happiness. I want happiness. Do you want happiness, or do you want purposefulness? Which one is going to have more value for you in the long run? Which one is going to have more value for you on a consistent basis? That's the question that each of y'all have to ask yourself. Because when it comes down to it, we experience as many lows as we do highs. Sometimes it's more lows than it is highs. And if we're chasing happiness, we're going to be stuck in those lows a lot longer. But if we chase that purposefulness, there's a reason for it. There's a reason behind doing it, going through those things. Then we can find a way to become stronger even in those lower moments. We can find a way to grow and to develop even when we're getting beaten down like that. Find your purpose. Find your reason in anything that you're doing. Okay? So, thank you all for coming out today, for being here and doing what you do. A couple of things before you head out. Again, the challenges each week, don't just read them, do them, okay? And like that thing so that I know that you have seen it. Your managers will come around and asking you about them, right? In some shape, form, fashion, or another. I came up to quite a few of y'all and said, hey, how you doing? If you just said good, I was like, did you read that challenge? Maybe, yeah, no. That tells me that you weren't doing the challenge, right? Welcome one. All right, we're trying to help you out here. Those challenges are for you to do throughout the week to help you along your deal for growth, okay? I'm gonna put out not an assessment this time, but it's gonna be more of an assignment. It's gonna be an essay type deal, okay? Some of y'all don't like to write. I noticed that by your responses, okay? The main thing I'm looking for here is effort, the amount of effort that you put into it, okay? If you give me a single sentence or two, I'm gonna give you a point or two and that's it, right? I don't have a whole lot to go off of to respond to that to help you to grow. I don't, because you're not giving me anything. You gotta give me something. You gotta give me what your knowledge is. And this whole implication thing, oh, it was implied, right? That's exactly what I meant, is what you're telling me right now. How do I know that? Listen, I try something. Hold on. Can I? No, I can't read your mind. I can't. I do try. I read your body language. I see your facial expressions. Right? Like that one right there. Right? I see all that, but I can't read your mind. Write it out. Okay? So, those two things. And did I leave anything out? Did I forget anything? D2L managers. Did I forget anything? I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. Check your emails because you will be getting the invitation for the next class as well. And again, checking your stuff at least once a week, preferably near the beginning, because I know not all y'all have computer access the entire time. Okay, but take a few moments if you can, visit the resource room over here and check your stuff. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for me? No? Wonderful. Okay. Y'all have a good rest of the week. I'll see you later.